Sunday before the end of the day. They are available on archive on our website within 30 minutes of the service ending. And they're all usually up on YouTube, our own YouTube channel, by the end of the day. And that's a great testimony to the tech folks who work diligently to make sure that all of that is available, especially to folks who are in a different time zone. Although, as many of you know, we have many folks from around the globe who stay up until incredible hours in the morning just to participate in worship. For instance, we have one member who is in the outback of Australia, Matt, and he waits until 2 o'clock in the morning, his time, in order to catch us live and to worship with us. And then people in Malaysia, they watched today. I got a check-in from Malaysia, a whole group of women, Muslim women, check in and watch Founders MCC services every Sunday in Malaysia. We have a whole group, as you know, in Italy, and some folks in Croatia who watch us, as well as, of course, in many, many countries in Latin America who join us for our Spanish worship. And as I said in my sermon at the 11 o'clock service, so often we can take for granted what we have here at Founders MCC, CM Fundadora, but places around the globe aren't quite so fortunate. And one of the other things that I think that we're most fortunate in is that we have a democratic church, a congregational-based church, which means that every year, not only do we report to the congregation about what's happened in the year, but we also make ourselves accountable. And I want to remind you that a few years ago, we began the forums on the Saturday prior to the congregational meeting. And that was the place where we really wanted you to come and to voice your concerns, your comments. And you didn't have to be present on the Saturday. You could email your questions in. You could text them, whichever way was most convenient. But we used the forum methodology so that we could address any of the questions that came up at the forum before the congregational meeting. So there were questions that came up last week at the congregational forum, which we've managed to address this week. And it just makes the process of the congregational meeting go so much smoother. It always reminds me every time when we come to our congregational meetings, members of the church who have been here for a long time will remind me that sometimes our congregational meetings would go on for 7, 8, 9 hours. And over the last few years, we have streamlined that process to a much, I hope, a streamlined process that makes sure that we get the business done in the most efficient way possible. So we are broadcasting, which means that if you have a comment or a question, it's really important that you come to the mic. The mic is up front, and it also makes sure that everyone in the building can hear you, but it also makes sure that those who are joining us online also get an opportunity to hear the question or to hear whatever it is that we have to say. Also remind us that not everyone's first language in the room is English, even though we conduct business in English. So if you are asking a question, I want you to, if you could just speak slowly enough so that those people whose first language is not English either get to hear it in a way that they can then ask for clarification if they don't hear the question properly. And that just makes it fair on all of us. So we're going to prepare to start the meeting, and I'm going to ask Reverend Oneda if she would come forward and open us in prayer.
Will you pray with me? Loving God, thank you for this afternoon. Thank you for this congregational meeting. We just invite your Holy Spirit to move throughout this meeting. And again, we lift it all up to you. And we thank you for those who have prepared all of the material, those who have made decisions, And again, God, we just bless those that we may agree to disagree. In your many names I pray. Amen.
Amen. I'm going to ask the clerk if he would confirm that we are quora. Can you give me the figure? Okay, we have 81 members who are signed in, and that means that we are legally quorum to hold our meeting. Thank you very much indeed. Our first order of business then is the State of the Church report, which is, if you've got a copy of it, it's this copy with the blue cover and blue back. This again was posted online. The State of the Church report is a report in its entirety. Once again, just to let the folks know who weren't present at the forum, we changed the format of this report. Last year, we used to have all heads of department report under their different programming titles. This year, we have one report as the State of the Church and includes all of the programming of the church, so that we didn't say that congregational life is programming, because the reality is congregational care is programming. ECM Fundadora is programming. The music department is part of the programming of the church. And so the entire report is the State of the Church report. So it's not divided up into different categories in the same way perhaps you may have seen it before. Under Robert's rules, the board has moved and seconded this report, so there's no need for a second. But once it's on the floor, it means that if you have questions about the report, then you are invited to ask those now. Once questions have ended, we'll then move to a vote to receive the report and approve it into the church's history. So it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions about the report? Skip.
The first full paragraph on page 4, it states that, as in previous years, the board would call an extraordinary congregational meeting with the intent of producing a revised budget that would include expense revisions. Is that exactly where I want it? I just lost my place.
That's
Bear
okay.
with me for a moment.
We've got time.
It was done so with the condition that should income exceed expenses as they had in previous years. I want to make sure that that's really what it meant to say, and it doesn't mean to say should expense exceed income.
That's exactly what it should say.
So it's incorrect here.
Yes.
But this has been moved and seconded. I just need, so friendly amendment.
We can friendly amend
to your
the
motion that
sure.
That be changed. Thank you.
No problems at all. Thank you. We'll make note of that in the minutes and amend the report. If there are no other questions, all those in favor of receiving the report with that friendly amendment, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Those abstaining? The report is received unanimously. Thank you very much indeed. Wow, first piece of business down. Okay, approval of the congregational minutes of the congregational meeting October 2013. Many copies were actually at the front. I realize that some of us were probably not present at the congregational meeting for 2013. Again, the minutes have been moved and seconded by the board, so they're open now to question. There are no questions. We'll move to a vote. All those in favor of receiving the 2013 annual congregational minutes, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Those abstaining? One abstention. Then we're going to move to the election of officers to serve the board of directors. So as some of you will remember, last year there were 4 vacancies on the board. We have a rotation basis of the way we elect. We elect 4 people each year. Each person serves for 2 years. And so every year we elect 4 people so that we're always on that rotation basis. We had 4 vacancies last year. We only elected 3 people. And so the board were empowered to appoint a person to fill out the term for 1 year. That term was filled by Dennis Herzik, who served faithfully on the board for this past year. And so now this year we have, of course, the 4 vacancies plus another vacancy for 1 year. So the way we're going to do this is that our rules and our bylaws say that each person to be elected to the board must receive 50% plus, a majority of 50% plus 1 of the vote of ballots cast. So when we do get to the ballot cast, the first 4 with the highest will get the 2-year position, and the person with the least but still 50% plus 1 will get the 1-year term. Does that make sense to everybody? That seems to be the fairest way of doing this. Reverend Onetta?
Could you repeat the form? How many people are present?
88. People's resumes for the board were posted online. And just to reiterate who is standing for nomination to the board this year, Dr. Stephen Scoggins, Jenny Nichols, Shauna R. Ramirez Roseborough, Susan Horn, Ernesto Amaya, and I'm missing one person. Or was that 5 pieces? Oh, Sheldon Cabrera Miller. And what we will do is we will allow those who are present. There are 2 people who are not present, Ernesto and Shauna. Shauna is a police officer and has to work today, and so is not present with us, although she did send a video. And Ernesto, who had a vacation booked for well over several months and could not be with us today because he and his husband are away. Both people did send me videos, and so they came through to my iPhone. I changed my phone last week, so I don't have them on my new phone. So that's a complete mess up on my behalf. But yeah, we have to. They're on my the hard drive of my iPhone. It's not because I haven't got an iPhone. I changed from iPhone. Can you believe it? I know, it's sacrilegious. So I'm going to just very briefly tell you about both of these people so that there's fairness. Ernesto is a faithful member of our Spanish-speaking ministry. He is an incredible young man, has been very faithful to the 1:30 service. He brings to the table expertise in management and brings some of the skills that we're looking for on the board of directors. He's a great guy. If you've not met him, I know many of the 1:30 congregation know him extremely well. He sings in the choir. He's an usher. He serves as a lay pastoral assistant to Reverend Alejandro, and so is qualified to run for the board of directors under our bylaws. Shauna is a regular faithful member, attender at both the 9 o'clock and often at the 11 o'clock service. She is a sheriff in Los Angeles. She is of Spanish descent. It's hard for me to describe these people. I'll let the other people describe themselves, but I want you to hear no bias in any of the presentations that I make for both of these people. But both are highly skilled and highly qualified for the board of directors. Before I ask the other folks to speak for themselves, I just want to remind us that when we start to elect board of director members, the main qualities that we're looking for on the board of directors are people who have fiscal management, who have strategic minds, and who are about the business planning for the church. There was a time, if many of you remember, that the board of directors really was the council of ministries in many ways. That's a different time, and so we're looking for people who have gifts in fundraising, in fiscal management, and in strategic planning. Those are the primary responsibilities and qualities that we look for members of the board of directors. So who's got the ballot? Because I want to do this in alphabetical order so that there's no favoritism. Do you have a ballot? Just so I can make sure I'm in alphabetical order. Okay, Susan Horn. So let's welcome Susan as she comes and speaks to us.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Horn. It's kind of nice to be down here because I spend from 9 o'clock till 1 o'clock every Sunday up in that little room up there running the broadcasts for the internet. So those of you that don't see me around, I haven't missed a 9 or an 11 o'clock sermon for about 2 years since we moved into this. And they're fun to listen to twice, actually, although it's interesting to hear how Reverend Neil tailors them from the 9 o'clock and then the 11 o'clock. I should write a book about that, actually. It's kind of clever. I'm running for the board mainly because I have a crush on Reverend... No, that's not. I'm running as a board. I was on the board from 2008 to 2012. I have a doctorate in law. I practiced law for 25 years. I was vice moderator of the board when we purchased this building and sold the one on Franklin. I think my background and those skills came very much in handy to the board at that time. I helped negotiate the lease for the preschool over here and worked on the sale of the building. I also think that my skills in that area would be valuable now that we have the downstairs remodel done and we're going to be entering into legal agreements with caterers and theaters and those sorts of things. So I think I have a lot to offer, and I would like the opportunity to kind of see through what we started when we purchased this building. So I hope to get your vote. Thank you very much.
We're going to invite, sorry, my fault, I turned myself off. Okay, that's me, I'm back on. We're going to invite any questions for Susan. Yeah.
If any of you have not signed in, please let me know so you can sign in so we can assure quorum.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Susan? Carol?
Actually, I'm a little bit out of order because I would just like to make a comment on the fact that we don't have the video. Is there a chance we could at least have photographs of these people? Do we have any photographs? Are these people like on our introductory thing to the church or anything like that? Because we used to have a rule that people had to be here in order to run for the board. I think we must have changed our bylaws. But I think that people may know these members of our church, but not be sure that they know what face goes with the name, and I think it would be a little uncomfortable to vote without knowing for sure who we're voting for.
I will try and make that happen before we get to the vote. Okay, Carol? Okay, Skip? I think you do you have a picture?
So, Susie, I have just one question for you. In what ways have you grown and changed since your last time on the board, and what do you bring new and in addition to what you brought the last time?
That's a really interesting question. Thank you. It's been actually kind of a revelation being present, kind of anonymously, being up in the broadcast booth without being directly involved in the worship service. I used to serve communion and do those sorts of things. So it's allowed me to reflect more on the message and less upon what I'm doing next or being involved in that, if you know what I mean. So I think hearing the sermons twice, being involved in listening. I do the sound for the broadcast, which, by the way, I take a lot of pride in. Every time I hear people are hearing all over the world, it really does touch me that is happening through our work. And it also gives me a chance to reflect more on the message and less on the process, if that makes any sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Then let's once again show our appreciation to Susan for running for the board today. Going to ask Sheldon if he would come forward and address the board. Let's welcome Sheldon, just like we welcome everybody else.
Hello, I am Sheldon Cabrera Miller. I have been a member of MCCLA since we were in West Hollywood, about 14 years. I bring to the table a childlike wonder and inquisitiveness. I bring to the table the willingness to be of service, because I filled out that application and I answered all those questions, but I had no directive as to what my goal was, other than I've been a member for a long time. I consider this my church home, and I'd like to start deepening that relationship. And so I'm before you to be of service, and I'm sure that there are people much more qualified or with much better kind of experience at what it sounds like that I'm bringing to the table, but I run your sound, I have multimedia experience just like Susan does, and a willingness to serve. So I hope I get your vote. Thank you.
Sorry, we are getting those pictures for you, so we're working on it. We really are working on it. Questions for Sheldon? Okay, no delaying tactics. Oh, don't run away too quick.
I just think it should be fair that, as Reverend Neil said, in terms of management and fiscal and service to the board, what would you bring?
Well, I bring 14 years office management experience and supervising staff. I bring doing payroll experience for several years. I had my own dance company that I ran and managed for 10 years. So those are the business type skills that I bring to the table.
Okay, let's thank Sheldon. I guess next going to hear from Jenny Nichols. Here comes Jenny.
My name's Jenny Nichols, and this is the one year anniversary of becoming a member the second time. I was a member from 1985 until 1998. 1985 to 1998. I served on the board of directors for at least 4 years during that point in time. During that time, I was on many other ministries and many other ministry teams at that point in time. When I was on the board before, it was during the time that we were purchasing and renovating the Culver City property. It was during the time that we were planning and executing our 25th anniversary, to tell you how long ago it was. We hired a wonderful music minister at that point in time. She's sitting right back there making faces at me and doing her needlepoint. I've been sitting around the pews for the past year trying to figure out where I needed to be in this church. And over the past month or so, 3 different people have said to me, have you thought about running for the board? And when the first person said that, I thought, ha, 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 I've done it before. The second person said it was Reverend Neil, and I thought, oh boy. I told him I would pray about it, and then 3 or 4 days later, a third person said it, and I thought, okay, this has got to be the confirmation that this is what God wants me to do again. I bring, as I said, the 4 years of previous experience to the board. I bring a level-headedness. I bring the trait that I honor the most in myself is tenacity. I'm flexible. Feel that I'm level-headed, and I feel that I would bring a level of calm to a stormy water. I bring hope, faith, and a commitment to this church. Thank you.
I keep switching myself on and off, sorry. Any questions then for Jenny? Okay, let's thank Jenny then for putting her name forward. And next from Dr. Stefan Scoggins. Let's welcome Stefan as he comes up.
Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Stefan Scoggins. I'm a registered nurse, PhD. And I have actually been a member here for 7 years. I took great pride in coming from a background of churches that say we're not here for form or fashion. And I'm only here for form and fashion. I'm here for the form of having structure. I'm here for the form of understanding that business is a necessary part of growth. I'm here for the fashion of understanding that that growth needs to be about building a community. I'm here for the fashion of understanding how we do that in terms of understanding the foundation of two or more gathered, touching and agreeing with that spiritual component, but absolutely understanding the business necessity. Business-wise, my main thing that I do, of many things, I'm an international motivational speaker, so I write and develop curricula for larger companies, Department of Defense and all that, on staff development, employer retention. As a registered nurse, even now, I teach nursing school. I'm a state provider for all the medical stuff, but I'm a real estate broker in 4 different states. So I have agents in all of those different states, and I am busy. But what I like about that, and I shared this on my application, is that there's a saying that says, if you want to get something done, ask a busy person. Because a busy person understands how not to overextend. I really do feel grounded with regards to accepting the responsibility. I think it's a true fiduciary responsibility to say somebody's counting on you. Someone's counting on your sanity. Someone's counting on your creativity. Fundraising efforts. I have a family background in entertainment, and we do a lot of fundraising, and I just get it. I get that you have to teach people to understand why they're giving. I get it that we understand and have to teach people that we need funds. It's great, but there's a difference between fundraiser and fundraiser. That D is necessary for deposits, and so we have to understand that we can have a lot of fun, but we need to raise money to have the types of services that we're offering this community. And I'm saying it that way because we're sitting here with a beautiful church that when I post the church online and stuff, I'm proud of that. But what I know is that it didn't get here by itself. It got here with this collaboration. It got here with people understanding that we have to literally compile our resources, or we would have just been sitting around talking about shoulda, woulda, couldas. So I took the time when I first joined the church to study behaviors, to study the process, and quite honestly, for my own fellowship. When you grow up in churches, and I did grow up in them, that there is a front office and there's a back office. When I came here, I didn't want to be in any office because I wanted to have my relationship with my God. Sometimes when we're wanting to be of service, oh yeah, I want to help. But the reality is you lose out on you. I love Reverend Neal, but I don't need him for a conduit with my God. And that's why I waited so that I could experience and learn that he is committed, that the church is committed, and I want to make sure that anything I give of myself, that it absolutely is the real deal. And I feel like MCC is the real deal. So I do ask for your vote so that I can be of service.
Any questions for Dr. Scoggins?
Thank you.
It's one more sense of appreciation to I'm getting some signals from upstairs, so I think they've been successful at least on one. So they are doing a great job up there, as they always do. Yeah. working on. Well, that's a picture of her. And she moves. It's this is Shauna Ramirez Roseborough. Ooh. Hang on. Let me try this. Okay, let me try this.
Family, my name is Shauna Ramirez Roseborough, and although I'm unable to be with you this morning, I'm there with you in spirit as you make your special choice for the growth of our church. I ask for your vote in electing me to serve as the board of directors because of my sincere passion to be of service. As the deputy sheriff of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, I have a sincere desire to serve, to be of service, and to use my leadership skills. As I married in December of 2012, this church means so much to me and to my family. I've raised monetary gifts for numerous memorial funds, and I'm a creative solution seeker. I'm invested in the growth of our diverse VIP spiritual community. I have previously attended board meetings, and I graciously seek to carry the torch of New Horizons, so I ask for your vote. Thank you, and God bless.
And Reverend Alex is running down now, because we might be able to at least hear him. And again, in my... I think we can run this one straight through the sound system. I tell you, technology is a great thing. When it works. When you don't change phones halfway through the process.
First, I want to apologize for not being here. My husband and I had already scheduled a vacation, and we just couldn't change the date. But definitely, I'm interested in running for the board at Founders MCC Los Angeles. I truly love the vision, the mission, and the purpose of this church. I love the inclusivity, which brings us all together from different communities. I have a lot of experience in networking with different cultures, different demographics. I have even spoken different languages to bring people together. This church has given so much to me. I feel like I was reborn somehow in my faith. I love to come here and be with all of you and praise the Lord, praise God, and love my neighbors. It's so diverse, this church, that I am totally overwhelmed of love. I have received so much from you. I want to give something back. So, again, I'm really, really thankful for being a member of Founders MCC Los Angeles, and God bless you. Thank you very much.
Okay, and really my sincere thanks to everybody who just ran around very, very quickly to get that to happen. So really, really, really appreciate that. So the clerk has updated me. We have now 90 people signed in. So we can expect 90 ballots because that's the number of people that signed in and have a ballot. However, the 50% is of the ballots cast. So if we got more than 90, that means somebody got 2 ballots. But we know that we've issued 90 ballots, and so we can expect 90 votes. But the ballot, it's of the votes cast. So before we do anything, this is your ballot form. You're allowed to mark up to 5 candidates. 5 candidates. You can vote for less, but you cannot vote for more. So up to 5 candidates. If you vote for 6, it will be discounted. And if you put in a blank ballot, it will be counted against the quorum. So those are the Robert's rules. Skip. Yep, the people remaining on the board will be Don Mueller. Don, you're at the back, for those of you who don't know who Don is. Tracy Adams, sat in the middle of the congregation. And I know there's one more, Michael Sutherland. Thank you. Michael, who's been the clerk for the last 4 years. My apologies. And Michael, so those are the three people that will be left on the board. We'll elect 5, and then I'm the 9th. But I'm permanently on because of the role that I play in the church. So let's just pray, and then we'll collect all the ballots. Yep, clarifying question.
Just a point of clarification. Can you review who can vote, who is eligible to vote in terms of membership versus non-members?
Yep. Only members, formal members of the congregation can vote, and only formal members who signed in at the front should have received a ballot. If you are not a formal member of the church and you got a ballot, my apologies, that ballot should not be cast, and we ask that you hold that. If that did happen for anybody, if you would just hand it in now so that we don't count that against the quorum. But my understanding is that ballots were only given out unless something's happened that I don't know of. Yep. Sorry, Camille. Just hold your ballots for a minute then, please.
I just wanted to clarify. So, will there be a conflict for 2 board members who are partners or married? Should that affect anything or no?
Yeah, our bylaws do not allow anyone who is in a significant relationship with another person to be on the board.
So VNA is leaving, did you
Yes.
say? Okay, so
Yep.
then that would be okay, right?
Yep.
I just wanted to clarify. Okay, very
Yep.
good.
That's okay. And just so you know, in our vetting process, in order to be on the ballot, they have to have met criteria. So they couldn't have got on the ballot if they did not meet the criteria of our board. Okay, let's pray. Then, God, we first want to say thank you. Thank you for such talented people. Thank you for those who are willing to step up, step out, and step forward. Thank you for their gifts and their abilities, and thank you that we have a choice to make today. So we ask, God, that as we have heard from them and as we have pondered their questionnaires and have examined them, that we're now prepared and ready to vote on these candidates. And we understand, God, that whilst one person will not be elected today, that no one is a winner or a loser because we are in this together. And we stand on that promise and we stand on that gift. So allow us now to vote according to that which we believe your Holy Spirit tells us, upon which we believe that your Spirit is leading this church and its governance for the next couple of years or so. And may that Spirit speak to us now as we allow those gifts to be made manifest in our vote. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so cast your ballot. I think I got yours. And then the ushers will pick them up from you. Michael, could I have a ballot? You get another one? Okay, I haven't done mine yet. Michael, thank you, darling. Thank you. I think I've got more. Yeah, but they're signed. Oh, no, they're not. No. Thank you. Are there any more ballots?
question about how the vice moderator is selected. I know that they need to have a crush on you.
Yeah.
But outside of that, what other criteria are you looking for, and how are they selected?
Sure. So the process, it's always good if they've got a crush on me. It makes my meetings so much more amenable. The way that our bylaws tell us to elect is that the congregation elects officers. So every single member of the board is an officer of the church. At the first meeting of the board of officers, they elect within themselves someone to serve as vice moderator, clerk, and treasurer. And so those are elected by the new board when they get together at their first meeting. Okay. I just want to check that, Michael, do we have counters of the ballots? Yes. Thank you. Okay. So whilst that part of business is happening, we're going to move on to the financial report and treasurer's report, and then hopefully get to the budget for 2015. And first of all, before we move any further, I'd like to express our deepest appreciation and gratitude to Ina Cohen, who's been our church treasurer for the last 4 years. Ina has done a great job, and knows how to draw pretty diagrams and keeps us fully affront of what's going on in the church's finances. The way that our process changed a few years ago was that we appointed an outside bookkeeper who was a CPA, who has been running our books for the last 2 years. And then when we left, our church administrator left the department, the office. We took him on for more full duties. And so it's been really, really wonderful to have a CPA working with the bookkeeping, working with the church treasurer to ensure that all our accounts are up to date and correct and fully reconciled. The books are now with a chartered accountant, Congragational, who are the accountants who have looked after our church financial, not audit, but our independent financial examination for many, many years. And we are currently having another financial, I keep saying audit, but it's not a financial review. And that will be complete before the end of the year and will bring us up to date on our financial reviews. I spoke to them yesterday just to check in with them and see how they were looking, and she said it's so much easier this time having very, very clear practices on the way that we do our accounting. And so she's looking forward to our report coming in before the end of the year. And it's great to have that reassurance. And one of the things that I think we promise this congregation as much as possible, as much as we ask for you to contribute financially, is that we're good stewards in making sure that we handle your money correctly. And so it's really wonderful to have that protection for all of us and to make sure that our accounts are correct and in order. So we're going to move then to the financial report. I explained this at the Congregational Forum. Our church budget runs from January through December. That's our financial year. We hold our congregational meeting in October, according to our bylaws. And so the financial report that we approve today is the financial report for 2012, because we're only 10 months into, 2013, because we're only into 10 months of 2014. So next year we'll receive the report for 2014 because we can't give you a full year because we're only 10 months in. Last year we gave you a report of 10 months of 2013, and now we're going to give you the full results for 2013. And as we do that, you'll come to understand why the congregation at that particular point asked that in 2014, if our expenses were greater than our income, I'm glad I got it the right way around this time, that if our expenses were greater than our income in the first quarter, we would then come back to an extraordinary congregational meeting for the congregation to review the budget, to reassign the budget, and to keep us on track, because we wanted to produce a budget and an income and expense that did not exceed the income of the church. So let's go to 2013 first. So this will be the end of year report for 2013, and I'm probably not pressing something correctly here. Turn it on, that helps, there we go. Technology. So, I don't know if you can all see that. I certainly can't. That's even worse. So our total, there you go, thank you. Our total income. Total income of tithes and offerings for 2013 was $489,155.21. Our investment income, which is the income that we draw down from just the investment, the income from the dividend income, into the account, was $50,140.67, which means our total income was $539,295.88. Our total expenses for 2013 was $653,103, which means that we had expenses over income of $113,807.12. And before, to know that we were not in any indebtedness by that amount, we had to withdraw that amount from the bottom line of our actual investment income. So our investment income made up the shortfall for 2013. Those of you who were here for the congregational meeting last year will know that we were projecting actually a little worse than that, but we were about 90,000, if I remember rightly, at the 10-month period last year. And we projected a bigger loss than that, but we managed to keep it to $113,807, which is a huge amount of money. So that is the 2013 year-end summary. It's been moved and seconded by the board. It's now open to questions. Yeah.
What you said was that the shortfall was made up from our investment income, but I don't think you meant investment income.
Capital.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, there being no other questions, all those in favor of receiving the report for the year-end summary for 2013, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Those abstaining? That be unanimous. Let's move then to 2014. I keep wanting to jump ahead. So the total income to date, so this is 9 months, I should say, it's through September, because we're still in October. So our total income for the first 9 months of this year is $385,558.46. The income from the dividend income, not the capital, just the dividend income, has been $36,648.30. So our total income to date, the end of September, was $422,206.76. Our total expenses up to the end of September has been $426,226.10. So our expenses over income shows a shortfall of $4,019.34. Which is a vast difference from this time last year. For those of you who are curious, the question was asked about with the current trend of income and expenses, where might we be by the end of the 12-month period? We're reckoning that we're probably going to be about 10 to 12,000 over at the end of the year. Expenses will exceed the income by about $12,000, which is $1,000 less than 2013. But still, we're moving in that direction. We're getting almost to that tipping point of making sure that we are in balance, if not making a little bit over, so that we can reinvest into the endowment. I'm not going to call it an endowment, our investment, because we do not yet have an endowment set up. So that's where we are at the 9-month period. We can't vote on it. That's just for you to know right the way through to the end of September. Any questions on where we are so far this year?
The financial report reflects a huge amount of saving. Can you give us an idea of how the board and yourself was able to save that money and where the cuts were made?
Sure.
Thanks.
I answered this question also at the forum because people said it was a miracle, and how on earth did you do it? There were several things, and I'm going to tell you, we cut in almost every line item. Toilet rolls. I know that might sound extremely silly, but we would put toilet rolls out at the beginning of the day, and within an hour they were gone. People come on board and they would take the toilet rolls. People are in need, we understand that, but the toilet rolls would go missing, and we would find a huge bill for toilet rolls and for paper towels. And so we invested in toilet roll holders that you can lock. I know it sounds it sounds silly, but our paper bill went down dramatically by having to unlock the machine to put the toilet roll in and lock it back up again. That's one example. The other example was that we had a loss of a member of staff at the beginning of the year, Louis Sagastumi, who was our church administrator. And then at about the 7th month part of the year, we also saw J.D. Sebastian leave the staff as well. All of those positions have been filled primarily this year up until last month by volunteers and by members of the staff taking on further responsibilities. Taking on more responsibilities to take on pieces of those jobs that were left vacant. When we started to revisit, because we knew that was not a sustainable model, just to always have volunteers, when we started to revisit what that might look like in the future, I asked the board if I could be creative around those particular positions, and instead of employing staff, on full-time members of staff or even part-time members of staff with benefits and with all of those other things, what I asked the board is if I could break those jobs down into sizable chunks and to employ contract staff. Contract staff who have jobs other places, who have companies who specialize in these particular areas and avenues, and to have them as contract members of staff so that they were paid for contract work rather than staff with staff benefits. What that has meant is that we've been able to completely diversify the skills that we need and have, and I believe having a much, much more effective output based on contract staff rather than members of staff who might have some skills in one particular area and have a lot of learning to do in another particular area. And so by using those who have skills in a particular area broken down has made a huge amount of difference. Many of those contracts started on the 1st of October, and we'll see how that pans out before the end of the year. What's good about contract staff is that they can come and go without disruption, and it makes a much more efficient system. It means, however, that there's more people reporting to me, but in the short term that's okay until we start to see what will happen in 2015. So from the sublime to the incredible trivial, really, like toilet rolls, we have cut right the way across because we heard you last year. You did not want us to have a budget or have an expense to the same degree that we did in 2013. because there was not the money to keep drawing down out of our capital account. So with the diligence of the staff taking on more responsibilities, with the board keeping a very fiscal eye, with a bookkeeper and a CPA, and with a treasurer, we have been able to keep this well under control for 2014, at the same time doing a remodel of a building, which of course is a separate budget, but adds to all sorts of things around utilities and all sorts of stuff. So great kudos to the board of directors who have just done an amazing job, and I look forward to working with a new board and with those who are left on the board at continuing this trend of fiscal management. And you'll see why we need the people on the board who have fiscal management responsibilities. So does that answer your question? Okay, we won't be voting on this because we'll be voting on this next year when we get a full 12 months. But we will move then to the budget for 2015. There we go. So we are projecting, and this is the summary. There are other sheets that have got the full detail on, but this is the summary. We are we've not changed the income from tithes and offerings for 2015. We're keeping that flat, 500,000. We are, however, increasing our other income, including our investment income, to $200,000. And then our total income for the year for 2015, that should say, would be $700,000. And we're expecting a standard budgeting expense of $673,000, 375. You can read it. Which will mean that if we make those figures, we'll be coming back hopefully at the end of 2015 with $26,625 that we can then put back into or reinvest into the church and its programming. So that's what we're projecting for 2015. The budget's been moved and seconded. It's now open to question. Skip.
So I'm assuming the bulk of the 200,000 increase is going to come from rents of our space below. Would you elaborate on how those numbers were derived, if they were done internally, if you used a panel of experts? How did you come up with that number?
Yep. So that's a great question. So currently to date, from the facilities, without including downstairs, we have raised about $65,000 this year. Just on these facilities and renting them out. And again, we have to acknowledge Jeffrey Jones and some other members of the staff who do a great job at making this facility pay for itself. $65,000 is no short change. That's a great deal of money from the facilities. More than our investment income. Of course, there are three new areas of the property downstairs. There is the kitchen, which is a full commercial-grade kitchen. There is a theater space, and there is a fellowship space. We have negotiated, or are continuing negotiation with two particular people who will be added to our contract staff. One is a theater manager. And the other is a commercial kitchen, whatever they call it, manager. Thank you. I'm sorry. Sleep deprivation is a great thing. I speak for a living, right? So, so we've contracted with these two new members of staff. They will be responsible for those two new spaces, for generating income from those two new spaces. And we are projecting $100,000 minimum from the use of the two particular spaces downstairs, which when you break that out over a 52-week period, that's about $2,000 a week, which is really not that hard. So we are negotiating about what that looks like. There has been some concern expressed about the church folks not having access to those spaces downstairs as they wish. We are working with the theatre people especially to try to make sure that the theatre space is available to us or rather the whole space downstairs is available to us on Sundays when it's our heaviest duty time, both on the kitchen and on the theatre space. And negotiating theatre that would be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So during the week, the theatre would be rehearsal space, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday would be theatre space, with Sunday being our use as well. As far as the kitchen is concerned, most catering companies or caterers need kitchens during the day, which is not the time that we use that space anyway, and would generate additional income into the church. We think 100,000 is possible. We think that's probably conservative rather than the full potential. That would be net after we paid. Yeah. Oh yeah. These are net figures for us. I just got a text message, so it might be Lucia from Las Vegas asking a question, or it could just be my husband telling me he's going home. It's none. It was a thank you from someone in the congregation for today's worship. I like that. Thank you. Rose? Yeah.
My wife has a question, but she's holding a baby. Her question was about the increase in expenditures and from what's projected for the rest of this year versus what's being proposed for next year. And didn't know if you could speak to, it looked like about $100,000, like what was kind of behind that?
Say that one more time. Let me just, because I'm going to get the figures while you ask it.
So the projected proposed budget for the rest of this year, like expenses, look to be around, it's not up there, it's like around $500,000, and projected for next year is around $650. Do I have that right? Right. So there was like a $100,000 some dollar increase projected expenses, and it was kind of like what was kind of behind that increase. Obviously, part of that was the staffing, which we've talked about, but that doesn't make up all of it, and so it was just some on trying to delineate some of the additionals, and I, as a board member, didn't have that, so help me out.
And I'm looking at the proposed budget for 2014 had expenses of $658,300. And for next year is $673,000. Oh, what before? Oh, yeah, what we're saying about 12, maybe 10 to 12,000. But I don't think that was your question. I think you were saying...
No. So total expenses for 2014 look to be around 500 something. And total expenses for 2015 proposed is around 600 something.
Yeah.
Some of that, as we've discussed, is staffing. What additional pieces are there?
Yeah, sure. So there will be further additional expenses in the contract staff of the theatre manager and the kitchen manager. Thank you. I should call him manager, shouldn't I? Yeah. I know. Skip's turn. So the consultants. There's remember the expenses that we have for this year do not include any of have been volunteers that have managed to keep our budget underneath. That's going to change in 2015. There'll be additional, and we have air conditioning now, so our utility bill is going to go up dramatically. There's also additional utilities for the use of a theatre and for the commercial grade kitchen. Plus, there'll be some additional. The staff have not received pay increases for 4 years. And we need to address that in 2015. And we also need to address pensions. The staff, none of our church staff get a pension from beyond what they get from the denomination. And the denomination have wordsmithed what it means to have a pension. They're now calling it a pension supplement rather than a pension, because the pension that our staff, the clergy staff, and we're not talking about those who are not clergy, but the clergy staff, after 25 years of faithful service in the denomination, will receive about $130 a month. $130 a month. A month. That's what our pension stands at within the pension fund of our denomination. Which means that for many of us who have made this our life career, who have had salaries that have not really met the industry standard, and therefore not had excess income to make our own private pensions available, many of us as clergy will have to rely on Social Security. And for those of you who may know in this country, Social Security for clergy you have to opt into. So many of us who are in this profession will be left at the end of 25 years of faithful service to the denomination or to a church with, using the food bank. And so the board wants to address some of that inequity, especially for all staff and not just for the clergy staff. And it's only right, I believe, that as we increase our income, that we should address some of these justice issues that we pay attention for other folks in the world, we should also address for our own staff. Plus, there are some ministries who have asked for some budget income in 2015 that's not included in these figures, but will be included as income is produced. And that's one of the notes on the bottom of the budget proposal. So it's pretty easy to see where hopefully that $100,000 could be spent. Our hope is that we can keep everything under control again and maybe even end the year better off than we project. And allow that possibility for more money to go back into the investments. One of the things that the board is going to have to grapple with in 2015, once the remodel is over, and we see what's left in our investment income, is when do we pay off the balance of the mortgage that we have with Mount Hollywood Congregational Church. Currently, we pay $3,000 a month of interest only. For that loan, it's $625,000. And our hope is that within the first 6 months of 2015, we would be able to pay that off so that we could save $3,000 a month of expenses. And just so you know, the way that the board is looking at that is if our dividend income falls below $3,000 a month, that's the time to pay off the mortgage. All the time that our dividend income is more than $3,000 a month, we're getting more from investing the money than paying it off. So as soon as we see that dip under $3,000, that's when we trigger paying off the mortgage to save ourselves $3,000. Of course, our dividend income then goes down dramatically, but that then becomes income rather than using it to pay off the interest only on the mortgage. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah, it's a wash. Ina?
Yeah.
Ina has some insights on this one, thankfully.
Well, first of all, I just want to point out, in terms of 2014, as a commendation to Reverend Neil and the staff, I think we owe them a great deal of thanks because the planned expenses was to be $426,000. 489,000, or roughly 490,000. The actual was 426,000, so they have saved us from the plan 63,600. So I think we should give them a additional thank you. And then as Carol, you know her as Rosalie. Where's Carol? She's hiding in the back there. We have this thing going. So in terms of the actual, if you calculate where we are in fiscal year 2014, not today, but end of the year, projected to spend $568,000. So compared to the budget for next year, that's $673,000. So there's an increase in expenses of $105,000. So that's a big number that the new board will have to create the vision and the plan to work that out. But that's the exciting part. So in terms of where that came from, which Rosalie was asking about, contract labor will add $81,000. Facilities will add 11,000, and operations 8,000. So those together are about 101,000. And of course, there's the savings in payroll that revenue's already mentioned. So the net result will be a difference in expenses, or an increase of 84,971. Thank you.
And she explained it so much better than I did.
Not to dwell on this too much, but I know Neil and I have had conversations, and so I was wondering if you could comment. I know many of the people sitting here bought tiles from the illumination project to help fund the downstairs renovation, as well as the renovation of this building, in hopes that the downstairs would be more dedicated to the use of the congregation and the ministries. So could you just speak to if the ministries would want to use that space a different night of the week or a different day other than Sunday, what that process would look like, and if that's a possibility?
Yeah, thank you. And yes, it is definitely a possibility. We will have, so we are bringing on 2 contract members of staff, one to manage the theatre, one to manage the kitchen. And just as we do with all the property that we have now, ministries have to book it. That it will be the same process for any other parts of this facility. It is unfair for Jeff to manage all of this property, including new spaces downstairs. The other problem with the spaces downstairs is they're very specialized, and there'll be certain insurance things that will be needed from outside groups that come in that will be using those facilities, specifically in the theater and in the kitchen. And so we have brought on professionals who know exactly what needs to be in that contract to protect us as a congregation and a church, and to also ensure that we are not held with liabilities that we could then be later sued for. So we've been very, I think, proactive in making sure that those spaces are professionally run. Those will be report directly to Jeff, and Jeff reports directly to me. So there will be the master calendar that we have right now. It will be important for us as we grow and as we mature, and as we are ministries, to have to say to ourselves, okay, what is our next year looking like? And where do I need space? Rather than the way we've done it in the past is we suddenly go, oh, next Saturday I'd really like to do something, and then scramble for space because we were not proactive or professional, which you can do as a church of 100, but you can't do as a church of 300 with many, many different facility pieces of the property. So it's going to be important for us to look at what our ministries are doing and where do we need to book that space. So for instance, we already know that we have a creative arts service on the second Sunday of every month. So one of the negotiations that we've been having this week, because of the forum, and that's why the forum is so important, is, okay, we know that that is an issue, so how do we get that addressed before the congregational meeting? And so one of the things we've been talking about with the theatre manager is reordering that space so that Sundays it becomes ours. If we don't use that space on Sundays, then it's available to an outside group. But reordering that program so that before we even start, we're very clear that Sunday is our usage. There will be a master calendar with everything on it. And as I say, they will report to Jeff. Jeff will take the bookings and negotiate out with the people that are involved. If it's another evening, we'll book it. Things are not going to be booked that far in advance. But we need to be proactive. We all need to be proactive. One of the other things that we have done is that the former office that was utilized by the technology department, we've reclaimed that space, and that now has become what we're calling the upper room. And that's going to be a space that is only used by our church programming. So that new room where the ICM choir sometimes sing on Thursdays when we have something happening in the sanctuary, and where the English choir sometimes sing when they have space booked out on a Wednesday, now has become a new space that's going to be permanently available only to church programs. It's not going to be available to outside groups. So that every day of the week we have at least one space in this building that is designated to our ministries and our programs. So I know it doesn't fully address everything, but it certainly hopefully addresses more than we did last Saturday, and makes it important for us to remember how do we book these spaces and how do we make sure that we get our place on it. Because we do value the people who bought that illumination tiles. And I just want to say that that's for the whole building. We've still got more places yet to renovate. There's the whole other wing of the church that needs to be renovated. We know that we can do some cheap fixes. One of the fixes that we're going to do as soon as the renovation downstairs and air conditioning in here is all done, is we're going to put air conditioning on that side of the building as well, and get that done. Even though it's not going to be pretty, at least we'll get air conditioning over that side, because that's a piece of the property that it's heavily used and heavily utilized. And I'll just say what I said last Saturday, what a problem for us to have. A facility where we're scrambling for space. I remember when we were over at Franklin, there was no space there. So to be able to come here and within 3 years be scrambling for space, to me is a great problem to be having, not instead of saying, oh, what a shame we haven't got groups here and facilities here. So, and then
I have a twofer. The first part, since we're talking about the building, and I brought this up at the forum, I do know from West Hollywood to Franklin to this building, the membership and persons expressed how important the kitchen was to be able to cook, to use, and we realize that we've microwaved whatever, we have a history. So I hear about calendaring. I do hear that the kitchen downstairs, probably because of its professionalism that you emphasize, would require a license. Therefore, there is that kitchen manager per se. However, I would like to hear about a priority then that says that it is assumed or given that there are important calendar dates already known. It could be Thanksgiving, Christmas, could be Easter, whatever. Some days or anniversaries that one would know that the congregation needs to come and have a professional fellowship, so to speak. The second part, of course, then on Sundays, if fellowship, some form of eating and snacks, if you're saying the kitchen downstairs may not be available, then perhaps I'm missing or not hearing that the facility across the hall here, or campus, would be renovated to have an oven or something to cook, whatever, those kind of things. So I guess I understand generating money, and trust me, I do. I just need to hear where the wishes and the investment and the thought that brought us here is reflected in scheduling, and that is a consideration. I understand how to generate income, and I understand the fund and D and all that thing. But the point is, where is that priority that the congregation feels as if it has its space and can use it? The second part, and then I'm going to run to a wedding, is, let me put on my board hat. I want to say this too, in terms of clergy pay. You're correct, the U.S. Pension Fund, Board of Pension, is a supplement. But I also need to acknowledge that all clergy who have a AAA, authorized, accountable, and something active, are hired or paid for by the local church. Therefore, the primary pension, per se, or set aside 401, is their job. Therefore, it is incumbent upon the church that they work for to be able to have that additional pay. When I sometimes hear the denomination, I just realize clergy don't work for the denomination, they work for the local church or chaplaincy or wherever you're paying days. So I want to acknowledge that as this church is growing, trying to shift from program size to mission size, if that is the will of the congregation and the board planners, et cetera, to say we want additional types of pension vehicles for our clergy staff and or other staff, then that is something that has to be budgeted in. Because all congregations, regardless of their size, need to put a line item, if that is important, to make sure their staff is compensated in a manner in which they feel is important, rather than the denomination.
Yep. I agree. And I think, so let me just answer most of those questions. First of all, the reason why the church is now taking seriously its responsibility to pensions for staff is because the board has made that an important piece of its conversation. And as we see income grow, we want to know where we're spending that income, and income has to be spent on programs. And one of the reasons why our annual report is the way it is because staff are program staff. They are part of the programs. Our programs would not operate if we did not have staff. Volunteers are great and they do great work, but the staff are part of that program. So we need to understand that staff are program people. They are program staff, and they're part of the programming of the church rather than staff and programs. They are part of it. And so when we pay a member of staff, we're paying for programming. That's what we do. So it's a different mentality than perhaps we're used to as we've grown, but we are growing into this understanding and reality. So it's now incumbent on the board to start thinking about what pensions look like. We're also an extraordinary church in that we have staff who stick around for a long time. Most clergy are usually in post 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 years. The history of this congregation has been particularly lucky in that, for many of the last 2 pastors, one served for 13, 14 years, and the current one has served for 13. And that's unusual in the clergy ranks. Usually we either move on or we get moved on. Just telling the truth, or we run for the hills. So it's hard to build up pensions in churches that don't take that seriously. And so it is incumbent on us. And yes, the denominational budget, the pension is not great. So it really is incumbent on the local church to begin to think about what that looks like. And a church of our size should certainly be looking at what that looks like for us and for our staff. I think for clarification purposes, I think this is the great time to be having this conversation because we have contracted with nobody for nothing right now. So as far as the kitchen is concerned and as far as the theater space downstairs is concerned, or the lower level in its entirety, I think our priority now, following the forum, is to have conversations that says the entire lower level is only for the church use on Sunday. And if the church isn't using a specific space on a Sunday, then it's available. But the priority has to be to the church. As far as the fellowship time after worship, we're struggling to believe, and you may correct us, that we are going to walk out the front doors around the side of the building and downstairs for coffee. We still feel that most of us are going to want to have coffee in the courtyard because it's on this level and it's right there. Which means that in the next phase of the remodel of the building, we have to address the hunter room and its facilities and lack thereof. The 1950s home-style kitchen is not going to cut it for us for much longer. And that's an expense. That's a huge expense. Any one of us has done a kitchen remodel knows what that looks like. And yes, that's not a very big kitchen, if you can really call it a kitchen. Right, Roger? I got it. And, we can't take up too much of that real estate because that real estate is used by numerous groups throughout the week. So it's a balance. One of the reasons why we're putting the freezer for HopeNet in the lower level in its own little closet is because they need a freezer because we don't get frozen food because we don't have a freezer. So we're making space downstairs and we can't take the freezer space in the master kitchen because that will probably be used, especially on Saturdays and Fridays for the caterings. So, it's going to be, I want to tell you, it's probably going to be 6 months to a year till we really know the impact it's going to have on us. And then we can always change course. But I think we have to give it a try first and to see what it looks like. Even when we moved in here, we actually did not know who was meeting here when we walked in here. We would walk into spaces and go, oh, there's a group meeting. Who are you? Because we did not know who was renting the space. And I think we've done a great job of moving it around it, being accommodating to it, being radical hospitality hosts to numerous groups that use this facility, and because of their use, make it possible for us to do the program we do. So, there's a give and a receive, right? And a receive and a give.
I just wanted to add to what Reverend Neal said. It comes down to a choice. We have lots of open space that will remain open most of the week, unused. We have the opportunity to make thousands of dollars a month renting out that space. And we've always utilized a calendar for space. And we've always allowed outside groups to rent our space. So nothing is really changing other than we're hiring professional managers to manage that time. So the thing you need to do is, if you have an event, you need the downstairs, get it on the calendar early, just like we always have, so.
If I could just make a request now, because you're saying that we're really going to be dealing with this more in the future, but for the sake of being on record, that two things that these spaces that we're that we're talking about, if it's possible for them to be set aside for more important times when it would be important for the congregation to have it Christmas, Easter, that's that sort of thing, so that's built into whoever is in charge. That's built into their calendar. That on the week of Easter or or the weekend of whatever whatever's important to whichever group, that be open to us before, so we have first dibs, as it were. And then the other thing is that. And I don't know that it has been spoken to, but some of the areas that are being used, that there's a kind of a check put on not necessarily using a space if it's going to interrupt in a service or interrupt in our process. There have been some, and as we've all witnessed, or some of us have witnessed, where we had a Good Friday service, and we could hear the clapping in the background from during our silent time or whatever. So that anyway, just at those important times, that the church be more about all of us having it. Yeah. That makes sense.
It does indeed. And as I say. Am I on? Oh, there I am. Thank you. Well, as I say, this is a great time to be having this conversation because we haven't got downstairs up and running yet. Right. So as we begin to talk with this, as it plans itself out, the other great thing is, of course, we have now a program calendar.
Right.
So we already have the calendar mostly set for 2015. So as we begin these conversations, it's important for us to take that calendar and say, okay, what do we need to put downstairs? So what do we need? What are the absolutes have to be downstairs?
Well, for those specific times,
like
for those specific
Christmas,
times,
Thanksgiving.
I mean, because once you get people who, because a performance space is gold in LA, it's such as the kitchen grade that we're going to have, so that at least those a couple of weekends a year when it is our high holidays, as it were, are definitely put aside for us.
That's good. Sure. The question's been called. Someone's moved the question. Someone like to second? Thank you. All those in favor of calling the question, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Those abstaining? Then the question's been called. There's no more conversation on this one. The proposal is on to receive the budget, approve the budget for 2015. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Those abstaining? One abstention. And the budget has been approved. Thank you very much indeed. Then we are just waiting for the ballot count. We have it? Oh. Did we cause election in the first round? Oh. Okay. Then we have the election results. Those who will be serving for 2 years will be Stephen Scoggins, Ernesto Amaya, Sheldon Cabrera Miller, and Jenny Nichols. And the person who will be serving for 1 year will be Shauna Ramirez Roseborough. Let's please show our appreciation to Susan Horn, who also stood for election and just... We are at 2 o'clock. Is there any other business? Roger?
Just one quick comment. We talked about facilities, and we talked about how we're going to use the facilities. One major problem is a checklist for those facilities so that they are returned back to worship ready. I've coordinated 3 weddings in this church, and if I didn't do it, it would not have gotten done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, thank you first of all for doing that. Would just like you to know that one of the contract members of staff is our new clergy intern for this year, Todd Toplin, and part of his responsibility is to be the coordinator for the church. So any major function that happens here, their coordinator will have to coordinate with him and be responsible for making sure that the property is returned to the way it is so that it's available for the next group that comes in, specifically on the larger spaces.
I just wanted to comment on Ina's position and the board itself, to say that I really appreciate your work that you did for us in this church, and I know it isn't easy. But Ina, as a treasurer, it may have happened before, but nobody commented on it. And I've had people to come up and tell me that has been in this church 20 years or more, that they never, ever received a thank you for the tithes that they had given during the year and how it was appreciated. And I'm here to say that if your tithes or your offering is not $100 or $1,000, a year, and somebody comes out and just comments and let you know as an individual that they appreciate the small offering, it'll increase.
Yep. Then before we adjourn the meeting, I'd like to ask Ina and Rose and Dawn and V&A if she was here, and Dawn Robinson, if they would come up so that we can please show our devout congratulations and appreciation for their service to the Board of Directors. I've got them here. And Dennis. Thank you so much. Rose, thank you so much. Where did Dawn go? She had to go. Ugh. Oh, she's done. She's over me now. That's it. She's done. We're going to close with a word of prayer and appreciation for just absolutely everything. 2 o'clock is not a bad time to get out of a congregational meeting. So, beloved and Holy One, thank you for this incredible church and for this incredible ministry that you have held us responsible for. Echoing the words of Reverend Barbara, thank you to everybody for every gift of time, of talent, and of treasure. Thank you for every pledge that's been made and every pledge that will be made. Thank you for the cloud of witness upon whose shoulders we stand today, giving thanks for that past, living in the present, but with an eye to the future. We ask now, God, that you would bless the actions of this congregation as we entrust the new board to carry out our view and our vision and our mission for the coming year. Bless the staff as they follow that direction and leadership. And bless us as a church so that as we think about coming together again next year, we can once again look back and realize the great work that has been done